All right, what's up, everyone? My name is Syed Askari, and welcome to the third episode of Contractor Chronicle podcast. So, last 5 years, my focus has been to empower contractors to expand their businesses through digital advertising and content creation. And that is literally the reason why I started this podcast, so that way I can share some inspiring stories with you guys from builders, contractors, architects who have successfully built their businesses as the industry evolved. So let's jump right in. Today, we've got a very special guest whose journey I've been following on social media for quite some time. Mike Martinez. He's the owner of Martinez Pool and Spa based out of South Florida. Mike actually got his bachelor's degree in business, and then he got his graduate through public
That's
administration,
correct. Yep.
I believe. Yep. And Mike actually got into the pool industry after, I believe, after you graduated, you got your master's, and running it successfully. You sold that business while also being a full-time firefighter. We're gonna dig deeper into that. And then Mike also opened a pool remodeling company. Now he's starting to build pools. As of last year, Mike's decided to leave firefighting and kind of just go all in on pools. So, Mike, appreciate you joining our podcast.
Thank you
today.
for having me. And yeah, I mean, it's been one of those journeys that for me, it's been a crazy journey. But as they say, success is not linear. So I hope to maybe some of those people that are struggling right now, if you can listen to some of the things that I have to say and really learn to push through, that's really what it ends up being all about at the end of the day.
Awesome, man. Love that. So I kind of want to start off with how did you even get into the pool industry in the first place?
Okay, so my wife came up to me one day when we were about 22 years old, right out of college. So as I mentioned before, in college, I actually played baseball at FIU. So when I went to FIU, I was on the baseball team. Side note, I have the most baseball hits in the history of FIU. So just fun fact, little plug for myself there. But outside of that, so we graduated. She told me she was going to law school. So I had just recently started firefighting, and I said, I need to find a way to help kind of fund this venture because I can't say no to my wife trying to go to law school, trying to better herself. So my brother-in-law at the time had a landscape company, and he used to call me out, and I used to go out and help him. And I used to always have these ideas like, hey, Freddie, why don't you do it like this? Hey, Freddie, why don't you do this? Hey, Fred. And he's like, man, stop. You're doing too much. Like, let's just mow lawns and get it done. So my wife went to law school, and I said, I got to start a company. So I looked into actually doing landscaping, being that it was the thing that I had done at one point, and the overhead cost was too much. So I actually switched over to something that I had at my house at the time, which was a swimming pool. And I said, wait a second, I could swim, clean swimming pools. I've been doing this for a long time. My dad makes me do it for our house. So, I don't see why the transition was so hard. So what did I do? I started literally knocking door to door in my neighborhood, telling people that I was a firefighter, and in not the most savvy or ethical business way. I was just knocking on the door, asking what they were paying and saying, hey, I could charge less and I'll do your service. I'm a firefighter. I'm trustworthy, long story short. So that company grew to like 400 or 500 accounts. And that company had like 200 commercial accounts all along South Florida beaches. If you guys know, if you're familiar with the area, you know how South Beach is a crazy market for all hotels. So we were lucky enough to get into that area. So shortly after that, we started getting a lot of leeway on repairs and remodels. So I myself started doing, and I have plenty of funny stories of when I started doing repairs of pumps blowing up in my face and jobs going completely wrong. But I always had the mentality of, I can figure this out. I can figure this out. I know I can figure this out. And that's what kind of pushed me into the uncomfortable boundaries that I started to get into, which was the remodeling, because remodeling is a whole nother game from just servicing or doing maintenance. You're tearing up people's backyards. They're giving you, in some cases, a lot of money, and you're responsible to manage that and to, properly set up the logistics, the materials, the scheduling, everything they need for their jobs. But as I was cleaning pools, I saw an opportunity in the market to jump into the remodels, and I saw that I had a good natural communication skills with customers. So I like you said, I do have my bachelor's degree. I do have my master's degree. I feel like I write and speak very well. And I feel like that alone has helped translate to success for me, on top of the fact that I'm relentless. Like I mentioned earlier, when I started my company for pool cleaning, I literally went on door to door, literally door to door. My wife used to jump in the car with me, help me hand out flyers at the malls, at local parks. And here we are in 2020.
How old were
I
you?
was 22, maybe 23, somewhere around there.
That's crazy. How did you know how to do door to door back then?
Man, that was just like what's like the easiest way to market? It's free, right? And you got to use all your everything that's available to you. That's free. You have to use. If not, that's how you have to start. Because if you think you're going to just start at this like $10,000 marketing budget a month, then you're crazy, because you like everything else, you have to build your way there. But when you do build your way there, you start to really see the value in the marketing and in the advertising and selling yourself. And you really learn that what sets yourself apart and all those things that contribute to getting the job.
That's crazy. So 22, you did door to door, scaled that business, and you had over what, 500 accounts that you were pretty much managing at your peak?
At least. And I couldn't even tell you, I was probably 25 years old. I had owned like 6 cars at the time, 6 trucks, a warehouse, all kinds of equipment. And I kind of was in that like imposter syndrome phase where I was like, I'm too young to be having this success and not really knowing what to do with it. But like you said, also a full-time firefighter the whole time. And, firefighting in its own right has its own stress and craziness. But then, like you mentioned, then also running a business. I mean, that to me, that's the hardest job in the world. To run a business, to me, is the hardest job in the world, because you're in charge of you, and your self-discipline is as far as you'll go.
Are there any specific lessons that you took from your firefighting that you applied into your entrepreneurial venture, specifically in the pool industry?
I mean, so you can't let a bad day, like in firefighting, you can't let a bad call dictate how your shift's going to go, right? And there are plenty for all the firefighters out there. You guys know there's plenty of bad calls to go around. And what you have to learn how to do is adjust to the situation from within. So there's all these external factors that will always take place. And what's funny is, on a day-to-day basis, I wake up, and from my business standpoint, there's some crazy thing that will hit the fan. And all of a sudden it's, okay, how are we let's take a step back. Let's take a second. How do we address this? How do we correct this? And what's the most efficient way to get this resolved? And in firefighting, if you think of a situation like CPR, I used to call that organized chaos. We're all running around, we're all screaming, we're all, and a lot of times there's no verbal communication. It's just us moving, because everybody kind of knows what they need to do. But it's the same thing in a hectic situation. It's learning to take a step back, take a slow breath, and saying, okay, what do I have to do to remedy this now? What do I have to do to get this? What's the best solution for now, for 5 years from now, or for 5 months from now, 5 years? It's all about learning how to do things and handle them as they come, and not letting it overwhelm you to the point that you just get knocked back and no longer want to do it.
That's amazing, man. I know you were running your business and also had the full-time job being a firefighter. How did you manage the demands? I'm sure there was probably some time where you had an on-call being a firefighter, but you also had to put out some fires at work.
It's funny because you use the terminology like put out fires, and it's like literally putting out fires. There was actually a few times, and the guys that worked with me at the firehouse can vouch that there's like funny stories, which was, we were in like TJ Maxx one time, looking at a fire alarm that just went off. And I was on the cell phone closing like a $70,000 new pool build. And the guy behind me was cracking up. Wow. And he's like, man, just take the call. Don't worry about the fire alarm. But there's also been times where, if I'm, I used to make it very clear with all our customers. I used to let them know that I was a firefighter, and every third day that I was off, and that they could still contact me, but it was going to be harder for me to be in contact with them. But at the end of the day, it really did, for me, come down to having to make a decision one way or the other. And I felt like, it kind of going back to what you said, it was it was extremely difficult. And in addition to firefighting, there's quite a bit of lack of sleep. And so when you're also trying to run a business and be emotionally stable and level-headed and even keel and all those things that you need to be as a business owner, it really takes away from that. And when I started finding myself making like a little bit more emotional decisions or kind of like losing myself a little bit, I started to say, okay, I think it's time. And more than anything, and this is the truth, this is what my dream is. This is my passion. I've been running businesses since I was 18 years old. Since I was playing baseball, I used to have baseball businesses. And I mean, I'm an entrepreneur in and out. This is who I am. This is what I'm meant to do. And I truly feel that. And so I felt like I had to make that move.
Props to you, man. You
it was
did
tough. It was a tough move.
Yeah.
It was
Now, why did you decide to sell your pool cleaning business?
So
what was the motivation?
So originally okay. So this kind of goes back to the first part of the conversation, which was it became too much to deal with. So at the time I was like, you know what? My wife's still in law school. I've made a little bit of money. I have to pick one or the other. And I picked firefighting really at the time. And I put my business up on the market, not having any expectation whatsoever for it to click, for anybody to contact me. And within a week, somebody contacted me, said, "What's the amount? Full offer. Here you go." And then we met 2 times after that. I met with the 2 investors, and they took it from there. They saw, which I have to be honest about, a little bit of my naivety, which was I didn't really understand the metrics of, gross revenue for a month and all that stuff. And when they saw what I was bringing in per month, they made a few tweaks here and there, renamed the business, and we're killing it at the end. So they made a great financial decision at the time. For me, it was a great financial move for me, but I do always ask myself, like, what happened if I just kept it going from there? And then, I probably still would have the pool servicing side along with the remodeling, but maybe that's something that you see coming down the road in a little bit. Maybe in a month or 2, maybe you'll see it pop up.
Now, what you know about the industry and with your experience, do you regret selling it?
I do, because
you do.
I would have had that business for like 8 or 9 years at this point, and that client base would have been probably over 1,000. And as far as leads go, as good as anybody, what better lead is from your own customer, and not to mention, if you do 100%. One good job, and that's my true belief. My true belief is not trying to convince people to buy your product or to sell them on buying your product. It's to show them, to make them believe emotionally with their heart that you can do this job. Because at the end of the day, it's all about trust. And to go back to what you're saying, like, yes, if I had a client base of 400 customers or 500 that all know me personally, that trust me, when it comes time to do a pool remodel, or if they have a neighbor that needs they would have thrown my name out there. But it's building back up. Like I can feel the momentum coming.
Yeah. That's crazy. Now, how did you know where to look for, like, when it goes to like selling a business? Did you get a broker, business broker? What was that like? Because I know a lot of people, like in the industry, they just kind of like hand it over to their sons or like somebody in their family to run it, or like the business just dies.
I honestly didn't even know that I was sitting on as much, and it's really not like, maybe to some people it's not that much what I sold it for or whatever. It doesn't matter. But to me, it was. To me at the time, it was. And I didn't know I was sitting on that, if you will. And it was because I had consistent monthly revenue every single month. We were bringing in whatever, $30,000 from just the servicing side, and then another 20,000 from repairs and whatever.
No, it's all good.
I lost my train of thought there. My bad.
Was it like when you were thinking about selling? Did you get like some type of mentor?
Gotcha. So I went through. I didn't even know where to start. I felt like, let me test the market. Let me see what's out there. Let me kind of put feelers out there. I really had no idea where to start. I started Googling, and then I learned that, to sell your business really is a factor of your monthly revenue. And it was like a 7 for pool service or whatever. It was like 17 or 20, whatever the number was at the time. I can't remember now, but it was like Yeah,
17x? That's
something like that.
insane.
Yeah, something
Wow.
like that.
Now, is that by for monthly profit, or do they go by
Gross revenue.
revenue?
Gross revenue.
Gross
Yeah. So
revenue. That is
again,
wild.
I was a little unfamiliar with, and it also has to do with how tight your route is, how well organized your books are. Like if you have, the contact information
Yeah.
of the customers, do you have all their contact information? Do you have contracts with them? Was lucky enough that I had all that in place. So I had contracts, I had tight contact details, I had tight books, I had tight operating expenses. So when I went to go meet with these investors and I presented to them, they were like, "Oh, this is, you know, basically they were just cutting me out of the picture and inheriting it for
Yeah.
them." Which again, for them at the time was, look at where I'm at now. I'm considering buying a pool route because, yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm in the opposite boat at this point. Like I'm like, hey, I can expand my business. I can add to the monthly revenue. From a business
Yeah.
perspective in pools, it makes sense.
You're like, hell no, I'm not
Man,
selling a
oh,
business
I
ever
never,
again, especially pool
I'll never
maintenance.
sell.
So, is there like a checklist that you could share? Like, hey, these are the 5 things. Make sure you have it before you think about selling
Yeah,
a business.
absolutely,
Like, have it dialed
absolutely.
in.
Make sure you have. Definitely keep an eye on your monthly revenue because that's what everything came back to. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, if you go to sell your business, uh, you may not think that you can cut things out. They can. The investor guys can. They have an automation system that's going to come in. It's going to X that. Keep your contacts and keep your CRM systems tight. So if wherever you're putting your contact information, make sure it's organized. Um, am I allowed to shout somebody out here on the podcast? JobTread. If you guys haven't used the software system called JobTread, I use JobTread. I recommend it to everybody, and it's not because they pay me. It's not because I have any sort of relationship with them that they give me a discount. I pay full price like everybody else. To me, it's for 2024 for a construction company. It's a system that makes the most sense because for us, kind of like younger generation contractors, it is very much like a Facebook system in that it's like a feed where you keep all your pictures in the same place and you keep all your contact details. Now, the reason I'm saying that is not to really promote them, even though they do have a good product. It's more of having a system in place like that is very, very important because, again, when you go to sell a business, they want to see what email contact information, because that's valuable. Whether people think so or not,
Yeah.
contact information.
Client base, man.
It's because what happened. What can I do if I buy that contact information? I can mass email some crazy advertisement, get some contact, and kind of start getting some generation. But in addition to that, like I said, I would try to make sure you break down your, let's say, in a pool service route, and this will be my kind of third and final one because those were the biggest three. For if you're a pool service route, break it down by city. Break it down by city. Say, hey, in Southwest Ranches, I have 10 pools. These are the 10 pools I have in Southwest Ranches. In Davie, I have it because it's going to give the buyer a clear picture of, okay, I need a service guy in this area. I need a service guy in this area. And I need a service guy in this area. And from somebody now on the other side of the spectrum looking to possibly buy, I'm factoring in what's my route going to cost, like truck expense, insurance expense, employee expense. And if I can keep that route tight, maybe a guy can do 15 pools a day instead of 8 pools a day.
Yeah.
So those things make a big difference, especially, I want to say, in those specific order. Keeping a tight account of your financials, a tight account of your client information, followed by a tight account of all your leads and all nicely and neatly organized. That's what really did it for me, because when they came, I basically provided them like a laminated packet of 20 pages of all that information over the past year of financials and whatever else. And they were, it was, like I said, I got full price for what I asked for. And so going back to your question actually about the broker. So I stumbled upon, I think that it's called like poolroutesales.com, like the most generic, possible name. And I was like, there's no way it can be this easy. So they take a percentage or a factor of whatever your, monthly revenue is. And then they write you a check. I mean, it was pretty simple, honestly. It was a lot easier than I ever thought. And because it was so easy for me, guys who I worked with as firefighters who were pressure cleaners and landscape guys, they all tried to call me to see like if I could help them sell their companies. But I was like, I I barely know pools. Like, I don't know. I don't know every industry. It's every industry's got its own little niche and own like uniqueness. So
Now, I know initially when you started your pool cleaning business, you kind of just did door to door, scaled your way up. Did you do any type of paid advertising later on to kind of double your revenue? What was that like? What type of channels did you guys use to grow?
I did the free. That didn't work, by the way. The knocking on the doors, it worked for a very short period of time. And then what actually really helped my business grow was referrals. So that one customer became two, the two became four, the four became eight. So this neighbor, his neighbor needed pools. I got that job too. But the flyers, I didn't find much. Like, we did a lot of flyers. I didn't find, and then again, this is in 2014, 15-ish. So we're talking about before really like the influx of all this like new age marketing, which I love, by the way. Yeah. So after the time that we finished all the door knocking and the flyers, we found Angie leads, which at the time was like, oh, hey, let's try Angie's leads. So I built a profile with Yelp. I built a profile with Nextdoor. I built a profile with Angie and Thumbtack at the time. Those were the four that I had used.
Got it.
Of those four,
I'm going to test out all.
What's that?
You said I'm going to test out all four.
I have always had the approach, and credit to Alex Hormozy, who just put out his new book, because I read it. Why not try every channel that you can possibly try? Yeah. Like, why not market in LinkedIn? Why not market in Twitter? If it can get you one pool sale for me, literally, that for per year, like that to me is a no-brainer. To me, it's a no-brainer. So I don't limit myself to just one or the other. What I do is I spread it out to see just organically what's working, which, I mean, to be completely honest, social media and Google ads seems to always works the best, because social media, we can put something physically in front of them, and Google ads, because it puts it in front of the right customers. And again, we advertise on YouTube. So Google can typically push them to our YouTube stuff. So it kind of like integrates. But again, we tried Angie's List, tire kickers, Thumbtack, tire kicker, like a lot of these paid advertising lead services. First of all, it's going to 4 or 5 different people. So automatic, you're going to get beat out. If you have any chance of making a profit, it's going to go out the door. And chances are that those people are looking for new businesses. From my experience, they're looking for new businesses specifically to try to get in for a super cheap price. That's where I kind of lost my, and no knock on Angie's List. I hope they don't like send me a fine or anything, but that's where I kind of lost my any sort of interest whatsoever in Angie's List, because like I said, I'm paying, and at times for a pool, I mean, you're paying $130 a lead, and it's going to 5 different people, and the guy with no insurance and no license is going to do it for $30,000 less. And, it's South Florida. So sometimes people go for that. And that's not really the market I'm targeting. So that was one of the biggest things that I realized that I had to do was, who is my ideal client? Who is my ideal client? Who is the top clients that I have? Who are the best customers I have? And how do I replicate those people? And they live in a certain area. They have a certain demographic. There's just certain costs to doing the job the right way. And in order to target those people, you have to be willing to spend money, and you have to be willing to put money behind Google ads or your Instagram page, or to show what work you're doing. And then people will call you. And then that's when the fun part starts. That's when you really get to sell yourself. And you say, hey, look, I'm here to transform backyards. And that's what I mean from the bottom of my heart when I go to somebody's property. And I feel like they can viscerally feel that. And I think that that's kind of, like I said, what starts to separate us. But again, getting in front of people is good luck. I mean, that's one of the hardest parts of this whole industry is getting the leads, setting the appointments, being diligent, being on time, taking thorough notes, taking thorough pictures, getting a good estimate. Because if you shortchange any of that, who are you shortchanging? Yourself. At the end of the day, as a business owner, you're taking it out of your own profit. And at the end of the day, customers are willing to spend for a good product. And a good product starts with a good estimate, with a good quality breakdown of this is what the job entails. This is a clear scope of work. This is what we're going to provide. But like I said, it all starts from getting that phone call, from getting the message and saying, hey, how can we set up an appointment?
I think what people go wrong is they just don't see how much of a gold mine Instagram is, Facebook is, YouTube is, to kind of utilize it into their advantage, right? I think you guys have done an amazing job as far as like just putting yourself out there. So how are people gonna know that you exist in such a saturated market in Florida? Right, like there's so much demand, and they're like, "Hey, I can't." There's bad leads out there. There's good leads, but you've got to hunt these people down by showing them your work. Attention is the new economy. I always tell this to everybody. If your business is not getting attention, well, guess what? Your competitors are taking that attention. So how do you drive that attention? Is through social media.
Absolutely. I mean, and not to cut you off, but in South Florida, and hats off to the big guys, Van Kirk. I'm competing against those guys. I am. Those guys are my competition, and I view them as my competition. And I meet or surpass their standard, or they're beating me, one or the other. So how do I set myself apart? Well, they're a big company. I'm not a big I am the guy who's going to run the project. I am the guy who's going to be there every day. I'm the guy who's going to supervise. So no, not every, and that's the hard part too, is as a contractor, no, not every project is right for you. And to say no to some projects is hard because what are we in this for, right? To make people happy and to make money. But yes, going back to as far as like Instagram and YouTube, that's the platform that I won't sacrifice on. That Instagram is, like I said, it is a visual representation of your work. And on top of that, I have to give so much credit to Tommy Divers and, our marketing team, Diversified, because he's the guy who makes sure that I'm always in front of the camera. He makes sure that he's getting the shots that are the ones that the customers see. But more than that, like this is, and I heard this the other day, and I truly believe this, like, anybody can build a pool. Well, I'm not trying to be the best pool builder. I'm trying to be the best organization. I'm trying to have systems in place that there's checks and balances for not just myself, but for our employees, for our work, for our quality. And how can I present a picture of my work if it's not quality? So first, it's making sure that all those things are taken care of. And then the final product has to be pristine to the point that we feel comfortable enough to promote it. And not just promote it, like you mentioned, I put dollars behind these promotions to push it in front of, like I said, the clientele that I know will give us more phone calls, to give us more opportunities to win more business. And what people have to understand too is that just paying the marketing is like a quarter of the battle, if 10% of the battle. Because like I said, you have to be so aggressive and so disciplined that when somebody calls you, I will call you back. What time works for you? Can I get there today? What works? Saturday morning? Sure, I'm there. No problem. That's what people want to see, because they see the hunger. They see, okay, this guy wants to do my job. This guy's serious about getting, and on top of that, like I've gotten to the point, I'm lucky enough, and I recommend every contractor get to the point where when you sign a contract, you don't have to take a deposit. All you say is, hey, I want to show you that we're going to start work, and when I need money, I'll let you know. But more importantly, I want the bond to be there. I want the trust to be there, the relationship to be there between me and the customer. I want there to be an understanding that, yes, there's a contract, and yes, there's money involved, and we know that this is a business transaction, but this is a lot more like a marriage. There's so many ups and downs. There's so many changes. Literally right before I got on the podcast, one of my customers just texted me saying, hey, Mike, just confirmed we're not doing the spa anymore, just doing an extended sun deck. And if I show you pictures, we're 80% done with the spa, with rebar in the spa. It is what it is, right? Okay, no problem. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's make our customers happy. But I also feel happy enough that they feel comfortable enough with me that they can text me that they know they're not going to get some crazy response. They know that I can execute and get that done. Like that to me also feels, tremendous.
That's crazy, man. Now with your Instagram, are you getting leads organically now? Like you're at a point where people just reach out to you on Instagram and those are like solid leads. Have you seen that
Oh
difference?
yeah. I mean, in listen, I see guys, contractors around the country advertise like the contracts that they close. Like I don't want to brag, but yes, we've gotten $150,000+ contracts from Instagram.
Yeah.
And what's beautiful about Instagram is when the customer has a sort of like connection to you. And again, I'm going to give all credit to Tommy Divers because he's the one who told me and made sure we pressed on this. But when you create sort of a connection with the customer, you show them all your work, you show them what you can do, and then you go out there and you meet them in person. It's a lot more like, what's the price? Not you're competing against all these other guys, because they've already kind of vetted at that point. They've already gone on all the other Instagrams. And what do you see on all the Instagrams? Pool, 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 pool. Nothing about their personality, nothing about who they are, nothing about them, what they believe in as a company, nothing about little tips and tricks. Like no above and beyond, strictly business. And with us, again, you get the more personal feel. I'm a dad. I have 2 girls. I have a wife. I'm a regular guy. I was a firefighter. You know, I don't consider myself, like I said, I don't consider these like hard business transactions. A lot of times I stay in touch with the customers after. It really is, you're building a relationship. And a lot of times that customer is going to do a lot more for you down the road than you will do for them. Keep that in mind. Because a lot of times when somebody goes down there to their house 5 weeks after or 5 months after you've done the pool, they say, oh man, who did this? I have just a guy. And here's his Instagram. Here's his Instagram. And all of a sudden I get a call and people are saying, hey, hey, Mike, this is so-and-so. I got your number from him. I checked out your Instagram. It looks amazing. I saw they subscribe to us on YouTube. And all of a sudden it's, what's the price to do this? Like I said, it's not, hey, I have another guy coming out at 1 and another guy, because
that is a race to the bottom versus what you're doing is, and I always tell this to our clients as well. If you want to really, really build a successful business through Instagram, social media, you need to nail down 3 things: know, like, and trust. And you're doing that through your content, right? They know you, they trust you, and they like you, right? Through your content, like this guy's legit. And by the time they're actually talking to you, they've already been pre-qualified themselves. Like you're nurturing them through your content. So when they're talking, it's not about like, hey, I've got 3 other people. It's like, I want to get a pool.
That's
from
exactly
Mike.
right. And that,
it's not like,
and it really had, like I said, I mean, I can't say this enough. It really has been a team approach from me and Diversified Marketing, Tommy Diver, because he was the one. I am good at customer relations. I'm good at managing your pool project, and I'm good at those things. Tommy is the one that really, like you said, he really brings everything to camera. And in 2024, it's more important than ever. Like, I don't necessarily feel comfortable talking on a podcast or being in front of the camera, but at the end of the day, what's going to make your business successful? Like you said, people to trust you, people to know you, and people to like you. And people to like me already, there's already so many people that don't like you automatic. So I already eliminated half those people. So now I just got to stick with the people who like me, and I got to get them to know me, which again, I don't try to be a different guy when I'm on site. I try to be honest. Just today, I was at the customer's house and the guy has a huge crack front to back on his pool and he's looking to remodel the pool. And I said, listen, I know this is probably not what you're going to hear or what you want to hear, but you need a new pool. There's no way to repair this to the extent that you need it. And he said, okay, let's do it. And that came from a place of 30 minutes before that, I was explaining every other little detail on the remodel of how we can get to this and how we can fix this and how this and this and this. And after all that, after I mentioned that what I really thought was best was that we build a new pool, he's like, okay, let's do a new pool. No problem. Send me the quote. Let's do it. We'll get started. I really do believe when you get to a point of so many of you do so much quality work, it really does become that easy because like I said, people do call you and their cousin or their sisters use you, and from start to finish, through headaches, through hiccups, through nightmares, through every bad situation, through change orders, through permits, through inspections, through all this, like we got through it. We ended up, we did your pool. It looks great. They're happy, which is the most important thing. we're happy because they're happy. And like I said, it pays tenfold down the road.
That's amazing, man. I love it. I couldn't agree with that more than you just said. You just nailed it, dude. You know, Instagram is gold mine. Like that's all I gotta say. And a lot of people are like not utilizing it to
it really,
like, people don't have any pictures on social media. I'm like, dude, how do you expect people to buy from me if they can't even see what your company exists?
We believe in growing like as a personality. Like Martinez Pools and Spas is not just a pool company. It's more than that. And I think I think clients, like I've told you in the past, have started to realize that, because with our vlogs, we show people, what our day-to-days look like. We show little hiccups that we may have here and there. We get to communicate with customers, or they show us like communicating with other subcontractors for problems at their project. So I also truly believe, and I truly believe this, that a customer is willing to put as much effort into you as you put into yourself. If you don't have enough respect, or if you tell me I don't have the time to put something on social media, then maybe this is not for you, because that's what you need to do. It's 2024. There's no more newspapers. Everything's online. Everything's at your phone. And it's not only at your phone. There's algorithms and there's metrics as to like how to design your ads to make them more attractive to people. I mean, if you don't use this information, you're just falling behind at the end of the day. And like, ever since I started any company, like I said, I started a baseball company back in the day. We're training baseball players. I still get phone calls from that company. And I closed it like 7 or 8 years ago. I still get phone calls because I had an account with Yelp. Like, it had to be one of the original accounts ever with Yelp. And I still get phone calls all the time. Hey, do you still train baseball players? And I chuckle, and my wife chuckles, because for a period of time, she worked for corporate Yelp. And we were like, what kind of profile did I have that people, but people don't understand, like, you're building. Yes, you post a picture today, and then you post a picture in a week, and then you post a story. But then in 2 years from now, you have accumulated literally a portfolio, of work that somebody can go through and say, holy cow, like this person has done a lot of different work, and so much of Instagram. I don't even advertise really that we do driveways. I don't advertise that we do fencing or that we do landscaping or any of those things. And people see it through our Instagram. They call us and then they're like, oh, hey, do you do this? And not to mention, and this goes back to investing in yourself as a business owner. You're trying to sell a multi-$1,000 project. How can you expect somebody to take you serious if you're not spending money into your logo, into your advertising, into your how you present yourself as a company, to your pictures, to your photos, to your edits, to your video, to all that stuff? This customer is going to spend $60,000 to $80,000 with you, but you're not willing to spend any of that money into your own company. Now you have a company like ours, or like I said, Van Kirk's. All credit to them. They're the top of. They're the people that everybody else is chasing in South Florida. Yeah. So, you put all this money into marketing. All of a sudden, you go to meet somebody face to face, and they can tell how much you've invested in yourself. Why? Because you have embroidered clothes. You have guys with the shirts on. You have trucks with the logos on it. It goes further than people think it does. It really does. And like I said, Instagram is free. It's free, and it's really inexpensive to even advertise and get in front of more people. And you have to see it as you're willing to spend a % of your monthly revenue to your marketing. Like that's ultimately what it has to be. You have to figure out what that % you're comfortable spending, 10%, 5%, 15%. And again, when those calls come in, you have to execute. You have to get out there. You have to sell. You have to close the deal, because that's getting the phone call. We all get phone calls. I mean, the hard part is closing the deal, and then the harder part is finishing the job and doing it to the right. But that's a whole nother ballgame. That's after the sale. Like that's a whole.
Yeah, first you got to get them in, and then you got to close them.
Yeah, I used to say to myself when I had the servicing company that if I got in the backyard, like basically like if I got in there for an estimate, I got the job. Now I can't say the same thing because, like I said, I'm bidding much higher ticket job, but back with the servicing company, I used to have this like nobody's gonna beat me mentality, and it worked. I mean, it worked
Yeah.
for a little bit, but
Of
again,
course,
a much smaller ticket item.
Now, did you get mentorship from someone, like someone you look up to, as far as like how did you learn how to build pools and kind of like grow the building side of the business?
Google.
Google.
No,
Okay.
I'm a very self-driven individual. So, one of my best friends, his name is Sean Riley. His dad was named Jim Riley, and he had a company named Relco up in the northeast part of the country, big electrical contracting firm. And his story was basically that his dad went to JUCO, started a company. Long story short, said I can run it better than this. Started his own company and had this massive electrical contracting company up in the New England area. My mom was born in England and came from England. My dad was born in Cuba and came from Cuba, and they met in the Air Force. So they jumped straight into the Air Force, got regular jobs, and started their lives because they were immigrants. They didn't really know anything. So that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, kind of played out for me in the sense that this guy, Jim Riley, kind of became my rich dad in the sense that he had a massive business, massive office, front row seats to the Boston Red Sox games. Not that like that was important. It was just part of this whole thing that he created by himself. And to me, I was like, man, that's the dream. Like to be able to say, you know, because when you build a business, you're not, forget the profits. Like you're helping change people's lives. Like when you hire people, you're paying them their salaries. That's going to pay for their families. It's going to put food on their tables, paying for their rent. And like, that's really how I think about it. Some of our guys drive trucks that they don't pay for. That's a payment that they don't have to absorb because we're able to handle it for them. And Jim Riley, rest in peace. He did pass away. He was my biggest inspiration as far as like starting a company. I never had a mentor. I used my business skill set to enter the contracting world. So I used like you said, my bachelor's in business. I used my master's in public administration and kind of brought those concepts into contracting. So at first, like I mentioned before, it was with the pool servicing, which was a lot easier. And I did a lot of the work when I first started. So it was even easier because basically it was materials and I paid myself. Once I got into the contracting realm, I started learning about cost plus estimates and contracts. And again, started applying, profit losses and net profit amounts into contracting. So took a simple concept, took another simple concept, kind of put them together and said, okay, now you get into building pools, not a simple concept at all. So I took classes with the PHTA. I took classes with the FSPA, Googled, studied, watched as many videos as I could, tried to sit down, tried to call. I've been to, I don't know how many conferences where I sat in on so many classes, talked to so many different people who are experts in the industry. Hey, I'm stuck on this problem. What do you think? Oh, what, have you tried this? Oh, I've never thought of that. And then I tried and it's like life-changing. You know, something that's super embarrassing that we used to do was I never knew about gross margin. You know, I knew we used to charge like markup. But then when we converted markup into what actual margin was, when we first started, we were making like 8 to 10% on jobs. You know, not something that you can sustain. But it wasn't until, like I said, I went to a conference, spoke to somebody. How do you charge? Oh, we charge by margin. Well, what margin you charge? Oh, at least 25, and we go from there. Well, what's that? And it started this whole other set of conversations. But I couldn't tell you how many classes I've taken in the last 4 to 5 years, how many thousands of dollars I've spent on trying to just keep educating myself, because I don't take the approach, and I never will take the approach. I've been humbled way too much in life to take the approach that I know everything. I don't. And like every single time I have an opportunity to talk to somebody and learn something, I truly feel like that person has something to offer me, which I can learn from. So that approach, I think being very open-minded has really, really gone a long way for me, in that, yes, I am a licensed pool contractor in Florida, but if you still have something to teach me, I'm all ears. Like, hey, we can talk about it. Maybe there's something I don't know. You know, I don't think I'm perfect in any way, but no, I've never really had a direct mentor. which is kind of the crazy part, because when you read all these books and podcasts, they're like, oh, step number one, get a mentor. Step number one, get a mentor. And I do definitely feel as if a mentor would have taken me a lot further, because all the speed bumps and hiccups that I had to experience them for myself. And $8,000 losses, $15,000 losses, $18,000 losses, $48,000 losses. Like, those suck. Those suck. I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. They suck. And yeah, if you have a mentor, he can or she can kind of like guide you to avoid those. And there's no reason to hit speed bumps if you don't have to.
You got to either pay by time or
exactly.
money.
And trust me, if I had the money, I would have paid by money. Like, there's no doubt. Yeah. I would have paid by money, because 100%. It was very painful growing pains in the beginning, learning little by little by little, like, oh man. But
even conferences, there's so much value in going to just these masterminds or trade shows. We go to like Pool Spa Patio Expo like every once a year, just to kind of see what's out there, what's new in the industry. And you meet like so many new people, like, and you didn't even know like the new technology that's out there. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even know that.
And not only the technology, but connection, like contacts,
connections.
I went to. So the last 2 years, I went to Dallas, Las Vegas, and Orlando, all those trade shows.
Okay.
And just to give you an example, I found an engineer that I've used there. I've found subcontractors that I've used there. There's the smart measuring stick thing that you can like point plots and measure. Game changer that I found there. Like you said, technology. I mean, yeah, it's not even just what that might be there. It's all the things that you don't know that are there that can help you. Because like I said, I've been there and have taken a class, talked to the guy or two after. All of a sudden they're like, hey, let's go get a coffee after. We start talking about the industry, and they're like, I mentioned, they're like, oh, but have you tried this as your solution? You go back, you implement it, and it makes this world of difference. And that pays for every class that you took, for every airfare, for every hotel. That one bit of advice that can get you a little bit farther ahead. I mean, yes, the conferences are,
and people that are going there are also committed in investing them in themselves and growing. So you're like talking to like-minded
I think that's the best part, is that you're spending money to be there. They're spending money to be there. You take it serious, obviously. They take it serious, obviously.
Yeah.
And now you are literally collaborating with other people who are in the same industry, who are willing to invest in themselves, in how to make your businesses better, but differently, which is crazy. Like, to me, it really is a cool, and I can say, like I said, I've made contacts that I still keep in touch with that in a pinch have, been able to pull through for me for whatever I may have needed in a quick pinch or whatever the case may be.
I love that. What's been the most craziest pool that you ever built, or like the most challenging that you feel like, man, this is going in the books?
There's been, I would have to say, like, the remodels are always the craziest, because at least when you have a new pool, you're starting from a fresh slate. Like, you're like, we can start from scratch, do everything from scratch. The homeowners know it's going to look like a bomb scene, but a remodel is a different, because every single time that you go down there, you find something different. Every single time that, and it's not to, trash other contractors or say that they did bad work, but sometimes they do bad work at the end of the day, and we have to come in and fix it. But one of the craziest stories that I ever heard was that I went to go take a look at a pool, and the customer told me that they had filled it in. And then when I asked them why they filled in the pool, then they were looking to resurface the pool. And then when I asked why they filled in the pool, it was because somebody had died in the pool and their ghost was still in the area or something like that. And it was still haunting the house. And I kind of asked the homeowner, I was like, I don't want to be haunted. So I don't know if this is something you should be telling me. Like, I don't know if I want to take this job now, but we did dig it up, and it was just like the shell of the pool. And I'm pretty sure we also released his spirit, because she said that no longer was there any haunting. So either it was a fabricated story, or it was a unique way to release somebody into their like further life or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But that was
That
one
is
of the most unique
crazy.
ones, because most of the time people fill it in for like whatever, it's cost effective or, but never for a ghost. So
That is crazy. Now, you being in the in the pool industry now, like full time, and you left your firefighting job as well. How has that impacted like your business growth? Like just doing it full time, have you just obviously giving it more attention now, spending a lot more effort in
mhm.
marketing? How's that impacted your
It's
business?
been great. I think so. There was a handful of people that I worked with, both that I still kind of knew me when I was working as a firefighter and now, and even they, have acknowledged like this is a industry. What I'm doing is something that you have to be committed to full time, because, like I said,
Yeah.
just day to day, there's things that can come up that can require you, and we're dealing with people's properties and their houses. I mean, it's a big deal. So when something goes wrong, it just makes them feel more comfortable if you're able to show up in a pinch. Or usually what I like to do as far as project management is I go to every single job every day. I go to every job every day. I make contact with all my customers every single day. Ask them, how's everything going? Are they liking how everything's going? How's the progress? Are they happy with the progress? Are they not happy? If they're not happy, why are they
Yeah.
not happy? What can we do better? Because that is what I'm going to do to get 5 stars at the end of the day. So in terms of that, yeah, it's been great, because like I said, I used to work, for example, all day Monday. I'd get off Tuesday at 8 a.m., go run to a few jobs, be dead tired. Same thing Wednesday, and be back on shift on that Thursday. So we couldn't schedule inspections on those days. We couldn't have any major estimates on those days. Anything that was really super important had to be pushed to a day that I was not on shift. And the problem is that if I'm coming off of shift and we had 6 to 8 calls after midnight or whatever the case may be, I'm half there mentally. And all of a sudden, for a big estimate, and I've actually seen this, like seen myself do it for big estimates, like look back and like, what did I write there? Like, what? That's not the square footage. Like, and it was because I wasn't fully concentrated. Now
Yeah.
I have one of those like 5 a.m. routines. I have like a morning routine. I wake up at 4:45 every single day, even Saturdays, even Sundays. Yes, I've completely devoted my life to this, and like I said, I love it. This is.
Love it.
I have 2 baby girls. This is my other baby. This is my other baby. I'm also able to schedule myself to be able to spend more time with my family, to be able to spend more time with my wife, to be able to cook more, which I love to do. But more than anything, I get to spend the specific amount of time doing whatever I want for this business. If I want to be at a job site for 2.5 hours, making sure every detail is right, I can do it. And I don't have to have the worry of, or the obligation of doing something else, which is great. Now, when I first did it, it was terrifying. It was horribly scary. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a huge amount of money that I walked away from annually. My pension, my all the
Yeah.
benefits that come as being as a firefighter. But like I
Right.
said, at the
Right.
end of the day, this is my dream. This is what I want to do. This is what I've always wanted to do. This is what always called me. And um, when I feel too, like what also works in my favor is, like I keep saying, this is my dream. This is what I want to do. People feel that. Customers can literally feel that, and they know that. And so when I'm talking to them, again, I don't beat around the bush. I shoot straight as I can. I try to be as transparent as I possibly can. It creates that trust with the customer. And then when I have to deliver bad news, they understand that I'm just a messenger. But then also when I'm delivering good news, that they can take it to the bank, whether it's going to be, hey, your project's going to be
Yeah.
done in a week. They know, okay, it's going to be done in a week. But yeah, that whole transition was pretty wild. But at the end of the day, I do think I made the right decision, and I really feel like it's shown, especially since I've left, like you said, kind of the growth of the company
Yeah.
itself. And also too, it does benefit me that I used to be a firefighter. People tend to like firefighters for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Unfair
Yeah.
advantage. Yeah.
So I have that going for me too, but
That's
like I
awesome.
said, doing this full time, yes, it's been challenging, but I've created such a schedule for myself, and I'm a very disciplined person.
Yeah.
Like I said, I get up very early. I start my work days at 6 or 7 o'clock. I'm on the computer, doing every little detail that I need to do. And sometimes that'll take me to 9 o'clock at night, whatever the day calls for. But I don't like to leave any stone unturned, because I feel like for every possible thing that I could do, if it makes me 1% better at the end of the day, that'll accumulate and it'll make it a lot better. So
I agree on that. What's the most amount of money that you think you made in a single year?
probably over $3 million.
Damn,
Like general,
amazing.
like annual revenue for the business. Yeah, probably over 3 million. I would say 2024 will be pushing 3 million, if not more. Yeah.
3 million.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What do you think is the most important skill needed in a business?
Man.
I know there's a lot.
Yeah.
Just one.
The ability to adapt on the fly, I think, is the biggest, because like I said, you're going to make so many mistakes. Listen, when I've started estimating projects, when I started running projects, when I started every aspect of every part of everything to do with this business, I've messed up at one point. And learning to say, okay, I messed up. How do we fix this immediately? And implementing that and making it like a non-permanent change. What do I mean? If I change something and that doesn't work, I have to change that too. And I have to be willing to change that quickly if it's not working. So I have to be willing to keep changing and adapt. And sometimes those changes are small, little, minute changes, but
Yeah.
like I mentioned earlier, like 1% over time adds up. And that's really the open-mindedness and the willingness to be flexible enough to change from your own beliefs and your own diehard, this is how it's going to be and this is how I'm going to run my business. You're probably not going to dictate anything. What's probably going to dictate stuff is how your sales are doing, what time of the market, what time of the year it is, and how well you're actually running your jobs. But yeah, I mean, the ability to adjust, and also communication. How can a customer, so it's like 1A and 1B, 1B being the communication. How can a customer know what you're trying to sell if you can't effectively communicate it? And that is a Jordan Peterson thing, one of his books that I read, of being able to write and speak very clearly. I am a huge believer of that. When I write emails, they are professionally written emails. They are FMLA formatted emails. I take pride in making sure that it's a clean written. If it's a note to a customer, a text, I don't. No, clean written, very well communicated, so that there's no. And if it's a big deal, I don't text it. I don't email it. I go to their house and I talk to them in person, because at the end of the day, like those are the conversations that need to. You have to kind of learn as a contractor. When can I email? When can I text? When can I phone call? When's the in-person thing? And the big things are the in-person things. So anything that's automatically like, would me as an individual, if I got hit with this bill, would it bother me? Yes. Okay, I'm going to go talk to the customer. But other than that, like I said, most of the time it's just like weekly updates or a daily text like, hey, materials were delivered. That's fine. But constantly communicating to the point where I'm in group chats with literally, sometimes in some cases the husband, the wife, and myself, or the husband and myself, like whatever the decision makers are for the project. It's gotten to a point where, like I said, I'm on group chats with them to give them little daily updates. But at the end of the week, usually on Fridays, I sit down. Hey, here's a recap of the week that we did. Here's the work. I don't need to usually send them pictures because they're there, But if they are out of town, which I've dealt with before, like I've had a customer in Germany the whole time for 6 months as we were doing it. So I'll send them pictures of the updates. But man, communication is like, that is like the staple of any good business. Is like, you have to be able to effectively communicate what you're trying to do, how you want to do it, what you're going to be charging. And also throughout the project, like any little hiccups, it's super important. Always be proactive, never be reactive. That's what's going to get you 4, 3, 2 stars. Being proactive will get you, hey, this guy was upfront, honest, transparent. And yeah, you hit them with a change order. Yes, they'll pay it. But you told them straight up, like, hey, this is, and even ahead of time, going back to communication, when I go to an estimate, I draw the line. I tell them the proposal price I send you is not the final price. That is a price of the conditions I see as we see them right now.
As of right
Exactly.
now, yeah.
But things do change when and you have to communicate that ahead of time so that when you do have to present a change order to somebody, they're like, oh, this is what we talked about in the estimate. I remember this. This is what a change order is like. Okay, no problem. Let's go.
Love it, man. If you had to choose between the best marketer or the best salesperson, which one would you pick?
All day. What are you going to sell to if you don't have anybody to sell to? What are you going to sell? I mean, a marketer, I feel like eventually, if you go to enough leads, like you'll get one. So if a guy can get you like 30 leads or 100 leads, like you're going to run into like a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, whatever the saying is. A good salesperson can be extremely valuable. Okay. Let me not discount that. And they should get paid to what their value is, because I used to have a salesman, and I tell him I do all my own sales, but if I didn't do all my own sales, I tell him all the time, like, I would hire this guy. This guy's great. But what that can do for you as a business, if you do have a good salesperson, is it can automate that income stream for you. So now you have a marketing system where you're getting leads, a guy who really knows the system and how you guys operate that's going to close those leads for you. And it would put me in a position where I can kind of hover over the top and see everything. Again, I don't necessarily like to be like that, just because I like to be very involved in the project. But yes, if somebody eventually can be a extension of Mike Martinez and what we represent and how we operate, then like I said, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have a great salesman, you can't sell to a wall. You got to have people. You need people to call. And at the end of the day, what gets sales is the number of people who are calling you. Because like I said, if 40 people call you or 40 people reach out to you, and you reach out to all 40 and you do the effort and you go out there and you do the estimate and you write and you do a good job, you're gonna like, it's the law of statistics are you're gonna get something. So I would rather have somebody bringing me 1,000 leads and let me figure out how to do the selling than have a great salesman and me try to figure out, because I'll tell you right now, it's 2024. There's a science to this marketing stuff. Like I told you, there's an algorithm, and my science is out in the field. My science is talking to customers. My science is sending them proposals and doing change orders and landscaping and engineering plans. My artistry is not in algorithms, and I can communicate all I want, but if I don't have anybody to communicate to, like, again, you can't sell to a wall. A wall's not going to buy my pool. So yeah, I think in that situation, I take a marketing guru over a sales guy.
Is there any controversial figure that you see in the business space?
In pools or business in construction? Controversial figures. There's the one guy who's like, he builds houses, and he's from Texas, and he says he builds houses for like $130,000. There's no way. He
$130,000.
He does some like,
he
has like some like reel where he like breaks down like framing $5,000, this, that, and if you read all the comments, it's exactly what I said. Everybody's like, there's no way. And it's typically like contractors, like a roofing contractor will be like, there's nobody doing a roof for that price. And it's like all in price for like I said, like $115,000 for like a brand new mansion of a house. But
I'll buy 5 now.
Yeah, there's no way, right? No way.
Yeah, there's no way.
But other than that, man, I respect. I don't think I'm a hater, I guess, if that's the right way to say it. I love to see other people succeeding, like in the same industry, and like Foxterra, like what they're doing over in California, they're killing it in the pool game. I see their designs, and I would love to try to work with them one day, but it's that like overt level of pool. Like they take such a simple concept, a pool, and they make it this grand backyard landscape escape, thing that to me, again, is so cool. We can do that. Again, my expertise, I'm a contractor, so my expertise is more of the building of the pools. We do design pools and all that, but they take it to a whole nother level. They have Lamborghinis in the cars and all kind of stuff. But their stuff is really cool. But like I said, I'm more of, when I see guys crushing it in this industry, I love it, because there's the landscaping guy from California. He's got Applewood Landscaping. The guy's got a great Instagram page. Tigran, yeah. The guy's killing it. I love this guy. That guy's killing it. He's like the contractor there that all us social media contractors are chasing at this point.
Yep.
But there's the other guy, the concrete guy, who's, I want to say he's in Texas, Talia, or I forget his name, but he's crushing it too. I mean, all these guys are smart. They have taken their systems and they're teaching it to other guys, which works. It works. At the end of the day, it works. It's a simple system, but it works. And so, like I said, they're crushing it. And, hopefully in the future, maybe that's in a space I try to end up occupying. I'm not sure yet.
We'll see, man. We'll see. We're right about time, Mike. So my last question for you is, knowing what you know now, if you were 18, what advice would you give?
If I was a teen?
18.
Oh, if I was 18. Man, a lot of advice. But I probably would say stick with your dream. Don't deviate from your dream, because like I mentioned earlier, I used to have other businesses, and like you were asking me earlier on the show, imagine if I didn't sell my pool servicing company from 8 years ago. Imagine had I not sold my baseball training academy from 15 years ago or whatever. It's not so much that's what I was wanting to do. And I feel like everything kind of has led me to this path. I feel like I truly believe that my education has come into play. I met my wife in college. So, that was a big thing. My master's degree has helped me kind of like further my business. So for me personally, playing baseball, in firefighting, you meet so many different people. It helps you tremendously get to know how to adjust to different people and firefighting has some of the toughest personalities there is in this entire world. Yeah. So if you can get along with people in a firehouse, you can get along with anybody, because, it's for the most part, all type A personalities, all go-getters. And you have to fit into that environment as a rookie and then as a seasoned veteran. So again, for me, I think it's all kind of played itself out to, where I'm supposed to be. But if I was 18, man, I probably would, kind of like something like you mentioned earlier, I would pay my dues, get into a GC company or under the right wing of a guy who's got a super successful construction company, sit there, make minimum wage for as long as I can, and say, just teach me everything you know. Try to move up within that company to see like the different stages of like logistics and supervision of projects, up to hopefully where you get to like estimating jobs. And then from there, have that conversation with the guy saying, I'm ready to make my move on my own. Maybe you're 28 at this point and you have this wealth of knowledge. Hopefully you have a bunch of money saved and you're ready to go, because you don't really need, at the end of the day, you don't really need a whole bunch of money to start up these type of company.
Yeah.
What you need is a drive like no other and a willingness to make it succeed. But as far as like startup costs, there's not a lot. So if you were able to put some away, then yeah, you get your first 3 big contracts, especially if you know what you're doing, and you're good. You're good. You can set yourself up for a long time. And the last thing I'll say, because it goes back to what you're saying when I was 18. So there's like a meme, and everybody at the table is like talking about, how much money they make. And there's the one guy at the table who's like kind of like sad about how he doesn't make enough money. And then they all like kind of say like, oh, what is it you guys do? And everyone's like, oh, we're on construction. But poor Phil, he's a neuroscientist. Like, he doesn't make as much as us. So there's a reason for that meme. It's because there is endless possibility. There's no AI coming to take your job in construction. There's nobody that's going to be able to run a project like the human. There's no connection like the human connection. And like I said,
AI can't build connections like we
no,
do.
there's no way. And like I said, when you build a level of trust with the customer, and that's something that fortunately I've been able to do, they bend over backwards to try to get people to call me to do their friends' pools. So like, they will talk to their friend, and their friend will be like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a couple quotes. Like, no. You have to understand, you got to do it with Mike Martinez, and like they are the best. And again, when you get to that point, it starts feeling good because you're like, hey, there are some people that like me. There are some people that think I am doing a good job, at the end of this. Because two, what's very frustrating, especially if you are a younger guy, 18, 19, just getting into this, is that a lot of times contractors think problems are individual to them. And there's another general contractor named Ramos Thomas who's in this area that him and I sit down every couple weeks. And we talk and we chit chat about our contractor problems. And he's a general contractor doing a completely different element of contracting than I am. Same exact problems. Same exact problems with customers, same exact problems with material orders or with subcontractors or whatever the case may be. And what you realize is that there's a whole community of us. And there really is a good value in providing or getting a mentor. So like I said, if you were 18 and you got a mentor right out the gate and somebody that can kind of like take you and walk you through how to get to where I am almost 20 years later, then yes, that's probably what I would do at 18. Because like I said, I took the path, whatever the hardest path possibly is the one I took. For me, it worked out because I had a lot of hard lessons that have translated into me changing as a person that have made me more successful. But at the same time, like we talked about earlier, you can either pay through experience or just pay. And sometimes it's easier to just pay. So
just pay it. Love it, man. That's awesome. If somebody wants to follow you, kind of check out your profile, get some advice from you, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
You can message us on Instagram if you want to get some information. Feel free to text me. I don't know if you can put my cell phone number out there. You can text me, email me. 305-586-4285 is my cell. But anybody who's learning or wanting to learn any background information about doing pools, and this is a legitimate offer. Like I am more than time willing. Obviously, time willing. I do have customers that I have to attend to and estimates that I have to do and jobs I have to attend to. But time willing, I am willing to spend time on the phone to help anybody try to get their feet into this industry because, like I said, it does lack good people at the end of the day, and it does lack good contractors. And when there's good contractors, everything goes better. And like I said, when there's a network of contractors, you guys, there's so many jobs to go around. I don't think people realize how much. I didn't realize it when I got into pools. I was like, there's no way there's that many pools. And then I'm doing 15 to 30 leads a week. And I'm like, there are a lot of pools. Like, there's a lot of jobs to be done. But
especially in your market, man. South
it is. I never. And what's funny is that my dad, again, my dad was a banker, so he's always like, yeah, it's a seasonal thing because of COVID, or it's a seasonal thing because of it's because the weather's warm. I'm like, we're like 8 years in now, man. It's not seasonal. It's every year, and the prices are just steadily increasing. Like they're not going down; they're only going up.
Yeah,
materials or whatever it is only going up. So it's like doesn't seem like it's going anywhere anytime soon. So,
love it, man, dude. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Appreciate your time, bro. Mike. Yeah, and anybody, if you like this episode, make sure to subscribe, follow, and be sure to check out our next episode as well. Thank you, guys.